G'day everyone. Well, here's the washing machine I was talking about. It's a LG Intellowasher. It's one of the earlier models, and my uncle's already started stripping some bits off because he had a go at trying to fix it. But if I turn the drum over, you'll see what's going on with it and all that. See that cracking noise it's making? That's not good. What's actually happened, I'm guessing, is it's spun a bearing on the rear drive, and it's caused the piece of plastic to come off and actually jam the drum up, because yeah, it only turns around a certain way and you've got to pull it. You can tell something's actually jamming against these outer edgings, but yeah, it's not happy. In fact, you can even see a bit of frayed plastic in amongst that, all through that housing there. But yeah, unfortunately I can't really make it do the Harlem Shake or anything because it doesn't actually have a brush motor on it. That's a 3-phase induction motor. There's its frequency drive in there. Although all of the electronics still worked fine on this machine, it's just the piece of plastic in there gave out, so it's going to be an autopsy. I'll pull a soapbox and everything out. It's all loose. Like I said, my uncle's already started stripping bits he can use off it, but yeah. You got solenoids there, you got counterweight, that's positioner or something, I think, or water pressure, I'm not sure what. But yeah, I will get some good bits off, because it's funny, because I actually use one of these machines at home, exact same model as this, so I will be able to get some good bits off it. That's the door lock switch, that's what clips onto there. But yeah, it's not a happy machine now, especially that there's a whole load of bits pillaged off it. But anyway, we'll have a go at pulling some parts off it and try and get this drum assembly out, because I want to have a look at that first. Well, there's the main drive pulley off, which, it's funny because something like that, it's actually just a one-piece forming. There is a metal press, which is just two plates that'll have this sort of shape in negative on them, and they press a piece of sheet metal in a round circle into the shape of this. But there's no actual serpentine grooves or anything like on the motor pulley. As you can see there's a groove on that, but yeah, it just runs straight on that smooth edge. And there's a belt there which is still intact. All of these bits are all going to probably go into boxes and be kept as spare parts. And like I said, there's nothing at all wrong with the motor, it's just the bloody drum gave out. But yeah, that's one fairly large bearing. It doesn't show any signs of getting hot or anything. I know the bearings, they can go a bluish colour if they've gotten hot and very worn out, but they look alright. I'll have to keep going, stripping parts off the machine, get the motor off next, and it's 3-phase variable frequency drive, and eventually get this drum assembly out of here. Now I'm questioning whether some of you can see that hole looks like it's been melted right the way through that. But there's that little bit of plastic that actually was stuck right next to it. And that kind of predicts what may have gone on inside that bearing housing, because there's these two bearings, there's one there and then there's one further in. And then that's the drum's drive shaft on there. And I have a feeling that looks like something's gotten hot and actually melted a hole right the way through that drum assembly. That's kind of nasty. And yes, the motor sort of fell off when I took the bolts out. Well, here's the motor from it, which is fairly free. The bearings are fine in it. It's just got a little bit of surface rust, but I'm not too worried about that. Although I do have my doubts about it being a 3-phase induction motor, for the fact that there's only 3 wires on it. Usually if it's 3-phase you'd have 4, because you'd have your 3 actives and your common or neutral going back to the controller. But on this you've got the red one, which is your start, so that's when you have your active from your power cord, that goes through the capacitor and also joins onto this. So you have 2 wires going to the capacitor terminal. One will be that and the other will be the active on your cord. The blue one's your common or your neutral, and that goes straight to your neutral on your power cord. And the third one is your capacitor common, so that joins onto the other side of the capacitor. But yeah, the rest of that on the back, that's all for the tacho, which is, not those ones, sorry, this one here. And that just goes on there and controls the speed of the motor and everything, tells the rest of the machine driver how fast the motor's going, how many revs it needs to pull. Because when it says 800 revs on your spin, that's how many revs the drum is doing. The motor is probably doing, say, 4,000 revs to counteract for the 800 or whatever it is the drum's got to do. But later on I'll probably have the drum unit out, and if I can still turn that over, I'll put the pulley back on and actually spin the drum and just see how many revolutions of the motor to every one revolution of the drum. And that should tell me how fast the motor will need to spin to do, say, whatever's listed there. But all that's going to come off, because all that still works fine. All of the electronics, surprisingly, is working well. I've probably said that a couple of times, but yeah. There's a frequency drive, or not frequency drive, sorry, that'll just be the main controller, which is potted in gel. It's basically made so that you can't get any of the parts out. You can see resistors and things are submerged in it, but that'll all come out and go as a spare part. Ignore the brick, that's just holding that up. A nice big toroid there, which is a mains filter. That goes with the motor. Another thing I didn't say about is that's the smallest of the counterweights, and it already weighs about 4 or 5 kilos. It's very heavy. Then there's the other one in there, which I'm pulling out right now. Well, there's the main drum assembly out. Took a considerable amount of effort since it was tied in with all of the hoses, the drain pipe hose, which took a while to get off. And all the springs, all these little tags on it. There's one there, there's another one on the other side. They're all of the what hold the drum in place. But it's fairly clean down the bottom. I thought, geez, it's going to be filthy all the way around it, but no, it's because all this side's sort of protected from the elements, I suppose. And talking of elements, there's the heating element down in there, which is fairly clean actually. Because when I first looked in that horrid looking edge, I thought, Jesus, the whole drum like that. But I did notice it did start, there is a bit of water coming out this sealing edge, so maybe the main drive seal's what's causing the noise. But as you can hear, it's still kind of nasty. So I'm going to have to undo all of these bolts all the way around this edge and open it up and just see what's actually making it. Well, it's the moment of truth. This will depend on whether the machine lives and gets put back together or ends up on the scrap heap. Get this out of cover off. Make sure I've done all the bolts. Doesn't appear to be anything on there, even though it's absolutely filthy. Well, there's what caused all that noise. Just a piece of wire that was actually looped in one of the feet on the drive plate. But that's all still intact. There's no cracks, or none of these are actually broken or anything on that. It's I reckon I would probably get away with putting this whole thing back together and actually see if I can run the machine. Now that I know that it was only that failed it. But the planned obsolescence part in these washing machines is actually on the back of the drum. This drive plate on the cheaper models is made of aluminium, and what happens is that gets eaten away by very caustic detergents and things. Like if you put something like a very cheap detergent in your machine, it will eat away at that, and eventually on spin cycle these will just snap off and drop the drum. But it's a little bit pitted, but it's actually not too bad. I'll give it a brush over with a wire brush and put the whole thing back together. But I know on the more expensive machines like Mealy and Asco, they're actually made of stainless steel as well as the drum, and they're even welded on. So, as in this one's removable, so you can in theory replace it if you need to, but when that'd break, it'd probably bend that and actually twist that points on the drum, but other than that, there's a little bit of scratching on the outside of it. It's probably from that bit of wire working its way down. You can see where it's gotten caught here. It actually scratched, and then it's gone here, and then here, and then into the back. But yeah, it's definitely probably worth cleaning this machine up, as I know my uncle's already replaced it and bought a LG direct drive, which they're fairly expensive actually, but it didn't take that much effort pulling the machine apart, so I reckon it'll